911, what is your emergency?
I think I hear gunshots.
What is the address where you heard it at, sir?
I don't know. I'm in Parkland Isles. It sounds like it's over towards the high school, over towards Douglas. Might have been gunshots maybe 15 minutes ago or so, and then I just heard 4 or 5 right in a row just a few minutes ago.
Yes, there's shots at Stoneman Douglas. Somebody's shooting up the school at Stoneman Douglas.
What's happening?
Martin, Stoneman Douglas High School. Being shot up.
It's being shot up?
Yes, I just got a call from Douglas High School. A female on the line advised me they believe there's a shooter at the school.
Okay, at Douglas High School in what city?
Yes, in Parkland.
Okay, we do have police on scene at the school. Police is on scene there.
Is it secure?
We don't have that information as yet.
On February 14, 2018, 17 school children were shot and killed while attending classes at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. The youngest killed, 14. Today, Cameron Kilpatrick is here to share his side of the story. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I know that this is something that is still very difficult to talk about, so I just want to say thank you so much before we get started. So take us back to when you were in the classroom and he basically walked in and started shooting.
Well, we first we didn't know what was happening at first because no one's ever really heard gunshots.
Yeah.
So it was we all panicked, so we ran, we hid, and our door was open for whatever reason. I think it was because some kid came back from the classroom or from the bathroom right before it happened, and so the door was kind of open. We closed it, it's 30 seconds later. Then we heard screaming. So then that's when we knew it wasn't fake. It wasn't the drill that we were supposed to have. So we were just sitting there quiet and then we heard he finished shooting, then he paused, he ran to the stairwell right next to my class. He opened the door, he ran upstairs, and then we heard more shots, and then that was it from there.
Had you lost any classmates in any of your classes as a result of the shooting?
In my class, nothing happened, but I knew some kids that got shot and some that passed away.
What do you say to Second Amendment advocates that talk about a slippery slope or potentially losing their gun rights? They think that this is a stepping stone towards having their guns taken away.
I think there shouldn't be I understand their perspective that you might need a gun to help defend your family or whatever, but there has to be a certain there has to be a certain and to have certain restrictions to help stop this from happening again.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I'm an attorney, and the First Amendment is no amendment in the Constitution is unfettered, meaning no right is unfettered. The First Amendment has limits and restrictions. Hate speech, inciting violence. There are limits to every right in the Constitution. The Second Amendment should be no different. If you want the right to bear arms, fine, but no citizen needs automatic weapons, weapons of war. We should have background checks. We should have mental health history. There should be waiting periods. There's so many things that we can do that still remains, that still allows that right to bear arms intact. But we've interpreted it so widely and loosely that there are no restrictions, and it has really, impacted our society in very, very negative ways, as we're sitting right here. In one of the ways, all rights have limits. This one should be no different.
Okay. I also want to say we had the pleasure of speaking with a congressman that will remain nameless, and we had a short conversation with him, and he said that for him and his constituents, he is a congressman from what they call a red state, and he says that his constituents don't want to see the AR-15 banned in any way because they say that they use it to kill small critters, as they call them. What is your thought on that?
Who needs a weapon of war to kill a rabbit? I mean, get a rifle. I don't think, I know there's a fear. There is a fear with people who have guns. If you start limiting them, then all of a sudden they'll disappear. And it's just this, we have to value people's lives, the lives of people, the right, the liberty, everything that America is, to go to church, to go to the movies, to go to school, over someone's fear of not being able to have a gun. They don't need automatic weapons to kill squirrels or rabbits. Any other gun, a rifle would be fine. Hunters, the whole point of hunting is to use as little shots as possible and quietly. It's nobody. I'm sorry. I strongly disagree with that. It doesn't make sense.
Sure. So I know, and also yesterday we had a few conversations, and just over this past week we've had conversations with pro-Second Amendment, so I'd like to kind of bring that, because I know that sometimes people don't always get to hear what other people say, so I like using this role to kind of bring that to them. Another fear that we encountered was that a few people that are strongly Second Amendment have a fear of basically this being a stepping stone to total gun confiscation. What do you do to convince people that this is not what that is? And some people will actually bring up, for example, they'll bring up Hitler and how he used basically rhetoric to disarm the Jews, and then...
You can't reason with the unreasonable.
Sure.
I just, if you look at our history and you understand our Constitution and our law, you will see that this slippery slope argument comes up time and time again at any point we're talking about the restriction of rights. But what it is, it's about balancing the greater good over this individual right. And here, the greater good in keeping our children and our society safe outweighs the individual fear of all of a sudden never having a weapon. Just because you restrict something and you regulate something does not mean it goes away. The freedom of religion didn't go away, the freedom of speech didn't go away. We've all had these balances and checks, and you have to understand that again, the slippery slope argument is always there, but it hasn't happened with the Constitution before. I don't know why in this one case they think it's going to happen. I just think it's maybe a lack of understanding. Again, it's a fear-based argument, but you have to weigh the greater good. But the right of my kid to go to school without hearing, seeing, And witnessing his friends die, to me, is much greater than their right to kill a rabbit with an automatic weapon. They can do that with a rifle. It doesn't make logical sense, and if they look through our history, they'll see plenty of times that we've restricted rights without eliminating them. It's the same thing.
So let's take this back to just, I guess, the emotional landscape for you guys right now. How are you both feeling? I mean, this is, like I said before, this is hard. Even as a 27-year-old man, I imagine being in that situation. I'd like to think I conduct myself well, but when I think back to when I was in 9th grade, I don't think I would have handled it well at all. Just back to my question, how are you both feeling?
I'm doing better. I'm still like hearing it in my head, and I'm still like not like fully grasping how really hard, like bad this really was, and it's going to take a little while to get back to normal.
I go from really angry to really sad. We'll drive by the school and I'll just start crying. I'll be in the middle of the day and I'll just cry. It's overwhelming that this happened to him and my family, and I worry about him, and I worry about my other kids, and then I worry about everyone else's kids and the parents who lost their kids and our community. I mean, it's overwhelming, and yeah, and then I get angry about the state of our country, that this keeps happening and nothing changes, and you know, it's a lot of different emotions, and it's also, you know, an awareness of, we heard this yesterday, we saw this yesterday, the communities that deal with this on a daily basis all the time, who've been talking and nothing's gotten done for them, and sometimes it just takes this hitting close to home to wake you up to a huge problem that needs to be fixed.
Sure. And speaking of home, how do you feel that the reaction from state leaders has been?
Do you want me to answer that? You know, they raised the law. You know, they changed the age from 18 to 21 to buy guns. So it's a start. But you know, we were at the CNN town hall, and everyone, it's almost like breadcrumbs. It's the party line. You know, not much really substantive is being done. It was a little something, but not enough.
And speaking of okay, I'm not getting cut off yet, so this is good. I want to talk to you guys about the CNN town hall. How did you all feel about that? I mean, you had, I believe you had Sheriff Israel, he was there. You had Dana Lesh, the NRA, she was there. Senator Marco Rubio, I think that was it. How did you all feel being in that town hall? Do you think, and I know that you kind of said, you know, it kind of felt like it was breadcrumbs. How do you feel that their reaction was?
Well, the NRA Dana, I mean, she said what she needed to say for who she is and what her position is. I think she knew what she was going to say before she came there, and she found a way to say it, and that was it. I don't think that anything that was said there changed her mind, and from what you see from all the spots that they've been putting out, all the, you know, media that they've been doing since, you know that it didn't impact them. I'm not quite sure why she was even there. Marco Rubio seemed to be open at points at that meeting. Nothing's been done since. I think for us, for the community, is really cathartic in a sense. Like, a lot of parents who lost their children were able to speak, and I think that was important, to say how they felt, and for us to say on a national stage how we felt and what we were going to do as a community, and what we were going to accept and what we weren't going to accept. And I think for us that was really important.
How did it make you feel when you went to the CNN town hall?
I didn't go to it.
You can go. I went.
I saw it. I watched like a little bit of it on TV, but from what I was seeing, it was kind of like, it wasn't like helpful, kind of, because like none of them really agreed to do anything, but like some people changed, like they changed, like she said, they changed a little bit. They didn't change really a lot to like help like prevent this from happening even more.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for joining us. We appreciate this. We weren't sure if you guys were going to want to come, so we're really thankful that you did.